Hi everyone, today I'm going to be interviewing Vice President of Welfare Shamima Akter. She's right here with us right now and we're really excited to have her today. So thank you for being here.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me. Thank you for talking to me.
It's no problem.
Trying to get to know me.
Yeah. So we're going to start off with a fun fact. Tell us something about yourself.
You know what? I looked at the questions and I was like, this is the hardest question.
Right.
Because I don't know if there's anything fun about me.
What? Come on, there must be something that you do outside of being the Vice President.
A fun fact about me is something I always tell people because they don't know off the top, like when they meet me, is that I wasn't born here.
Okay.
I was born and raised in Bangladesh. So that was one thing people are like, you don't sound it.
Mm-hmm.
I always get that comment, like, you don't sound like you've immigrated.
Yeah.
But that's a fun fact. I'd say that's the most fun.
So let's go back to the beginning to when you were a child. Who do you think were your female inspirations back then?
You know what? This question hit me mainly because I was trying to think really hard who were my female inspirations. And I realized I didn't have any. I didn't see anyone like me growing up in positions of power or on TV, because my dad used to only allow us to watch the news.
Yeah.
And I'll be very honest, on the news you don't see female voices as much. You don't see female voices of colour especially.
Yeah.
And growing up I didn't have that inspiration that, oh, I want to be like this, I want to be like this person, or this person inspires me. I knew my home was my boundary. Outside of my home I didn't know anything. And I think reflecting now, it's quite sad.
Yeah, so knowing that you didn't have that many inspirations to look up to as you were growing up, how do you think that has shaped your identity?
I'm going to backtrack a little bit, just to give you a little context.
Yeah.
Me right now is very different to how I was 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I was still living with my parents. I was still within that confined environment, and I was still contained, very much contained within that environment. And I was told I wasn't allowed to work. I was told I wasn't allowed to get a higher education and all of that stuff. So back then, having a dream, having an aspiration wasn't something I had in my mind. It wasn't something I thought I could achieve. But 2 years on, with how I am right now, I'm starting to see all these strong women around me, whether it's my fellow execs or just my sister. I see a lot of people achieving things and I take them as inspiration.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's shaping my identity, is the struggles that I've gone through of being that independent person outside of my family, leaving my family home and being independent is shaping me more than my childhood has shaped me. My childhood shaped me in a way where I was quiet, I was scared of my own voice, I was unable to speak my mind. Now I'm in a role where I have to speak my mind. It's what I do, it's what I get paid for. That change, I think it's hard for me to answer that question without addressing the fact that there was a changing period in me which has shaped my identity more than my childhood has.
So knowing that you didn't know that you had these opportunities when you were younger, and now you studied computer science, you're a graduate in that subject, which is, you know, a male-dominated subject as well.
Very male.
Did you always know that you were going to study this, or was this kind of something that you realized as you started growing up?
No, this is going to give like that whole idea, oh, Muslim women are oppressed sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, I hope not.
I hope not. I'm not, guys. I'm not oppressed. My dad wanted me to do computer science, and it was like a little mutual understanding between me and my dad. I couldn't go and do English. He wasn't a big fan. He was like, what are you going to do with English? What are you going to do?
Asian parents, right?
Yeah. And I didn't want to do medicine.
Yeah.
So it was like, let's find a middle ground, something that has science in it.
Yeah.
And something that I was like, you know what, that's not too bad. I can do that. So computer science was the middle ground me and my dad found.
That's actually really interesting, because like in other families, like the male figures will be like, oh no, you shouldn't do this subject because like it's something that's male dominated or it's just for guys to do. But yeah, that's interesting.
My dad had the conception that if I did computer science, I can work from home. So in his head it worked like that, which was quite interesting, because I don't think not many parents thought like that doing computer science would allow her to work from home. That way she can at least get a job.
So he's thinking ahead, right?
He was thinking ahead.
That's smart. So now that you have studied it, and knowing that it is, like I said, a male-dominated subject, what was that experience like?
At first, it was really difficult, in the sense that settling in to a male-dominated subject where almost all of our lecturers are male too, which is a worry, because it's like, am I supposed to be in this field? Am I supposed to be in this lecture? Looking around, everyone is a man. And it's like, oh, who do I relate to now? It was difficult settling in, but I think there has been an increase in the number of female students, and like that push from like corporate organizations to have female STEM role models. So there's been alumni coming in who are female now and then, who are in the STEM subjects, and it's quite fascinating now that I feel more comfortable, and I feel like it's my place too. Does that make sense? Before first year, I did not feel like it was my space. I did not feel like I belonged there. But as I grew within my course and degree, I started to find a sense of belonging within that sphere. So it was quite interesting.
So what would you say to new students who are just, starting out, they just started studying computer science, they're females, and there's just loads of men? Like, how would you deal with that? How would you tell them to deal with that?
Don't shy away. Okay. I had this thing where I was in a group of, one of the first group work we had, I was the only girl. And I was like, I don't know what to say. I'm not smart enough to say any of the things I should be saying. So I used to shy away a lot. But one thing I learned over the years was me shying away just wasted time, because you know what, sometimes I had valid points. And it's important to make your voice heard. If you have questions, just ask. Like, everyone's on the same boat, everyone's come from the same qualifications or similar qualifications, so we're there for a reason. Even though you're a female and there's like, for one female there's like 20 males, it's fine. It's still your place, because you belong there, you worked hard to get there.
So like, don't shy away, don't be scared.
Own that place. It is yours. You were there for a reason.
Right, of course. And so let's move on to our next question, and this is about empowerment. What do you think female empowerment means to you? What does it look like to you?
Female empowerment. Oh, it's such a big word, isn't it?
It's such a vague term as well, because you hear it thrown around in the media.
Empowerment's like a buzzword.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone loves using the word empowerment.
Yeah, but
diversity,
it's
that.
Yeah. It's so personal as well. And it's interesting to see what, someone like you would think of it.
I think in female empowerment in general, is something that you need to find yourself. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But you can only find it with the right support system. Now, I was very grateful that the people around me supported me in me finding my own identity. And like I said, 2 years ago, I had a massive identity crisis, trying to figure out who I was. And I had friends and family around me who supported that and allowed me to find myself. And I think that's empowering, that you are able to do that. You are able to go on that journey of finding yourself. For me, empowerment is very personal as well, but it's connected to all your support networks, and having a support network is vital. Building that support network is hard work, but once you build it, it usually doesn't crumble down. Usually.
Usually.
And we have the odd ones here and there, but usually it doesn't crumble.
So following from that question, would you consider yourself a feminist?
Of course. I think feminist, it's a word that's had very different connotations now and then, but I think that's because I did sociology when I was in sixth form, so that's when I understood what sort of like different strands of feminism there was. But I do, with the whole concept of feminism and equality, I'm always consider myself as a feminist, because I realise the struggles of a female is very different. And especially like growing up in a household where, I don't know how would I say this, growing up in a household where female voices were seen but not heard, that sort of thing. The seen not heard was very prominent, and the female struggles is very different to the male struggles. I've had a little brother, he was treated very differently to how I was, and I think that translates onto wider society as well. So it's an endless struggle being a girl.
So yeah, you said that you were treated differently to your brothers,
Definitely.
and being a woman from a Bangladeshi background, how do you think that has shaped your identity both back home and here as well?
Ooh. Back home, I feel like if I stayed back home, if I was brought up there, I always think, would I be the same person?
Yeah.
I don't think I would be. But going back to your question, how has it shaped me?
And what has your experience been like? Had there been any particular experiences that have really stood out to you in the past?
I'd say one of my major experiences was the concept of marriage and that pressure to get married. I don't think that's something Asian male in my age bracket would get right now, as I got. So I was 19 when my parents wanted me to get married. Yeah, that's something that really affects me. I don't think that's something male students, or not even just students, Asian males have to go through at all.
Right. Okay.
They might do, but
yeah, they might not.
They might not.
Yeah. So based off of that, what do you think are the solutions to these problems? So women of ethnic minority backgrounds in Britain as well. We face a different kind of racism. We face a lot more issues than just anyone else.
We do.
And what do you think are the solutions to that?
I mean, a lot of the problems we face is the lack of role models.
Right.
We don't have that many people to look up to in positions of power, and that glass ceiling is there, I feel like, thicker than a normal glass ceiling.
Yeah.
We also have the issues of not being able to find the right help. I feel like I'm just going to go sidetrack a bit onto mental health. It's just we don't have female counsellors who are of colour that we can go and talk to, and I feel like counselling is one of those experiences you need to connect with your counsellor, and it's really difficult for us to find that. So things like that, I think a way to solve that would be to get people to promote further education to people, because a lot of these positions come from further education and doing your PhDs and getting to those positions of power, and I don't think that's something we advocate well enough. And that's what's shortening that pool of talent of women who should be in those higher positions.
Would you say that we are the change that we want? So our generation are going to be, the future inspirations to other young girls like us?
Without being fluffy, yes.
Right, okay.
Without being like, oh, everything's going to be great with our generation. I don't know if everything's going to be great.
Yeah.
But we are genuinely the change we want to be, because if we tell ourselves, okay, I'm going to go get that PhD so I can be that vice chancellor, I can be a member of the executive team in uni, then that's one person there. That's one more person added onto that pool of talent that can go on to these big roles. It is us. We need to motivate ourselves to go onto those positions of power, because we don't have any, and I really want to see young Asian girls, young black girls going on to those positions of power and being able to show the new generation that, look, we can do it, so can you.
So what motivated you when you decided to run for vice president? Because other girls would see that and think, I can't do that, but now they see you and they think, well, maybe I can do that. So what was your motivation, and what would you say to other people like you?
My motivation was my personal struggle. I think I've sort of hinted at it throughout the interview. So that personal struggle really made me realise there are so many girls struggling just like me, and if I'm there as someone who's accessible, someone they can talk to, someone they can come ask for help, someone just to look up to and be like, you know what, it's okay, then I'll have some sort of purpose to my existence. I know it's quite airy-fairy, but it was the thought process, is that I wanted a purpose. I wanted to make the life of someone else better, even if it's one person. I really wanted to affect someone. And the impact we make as execs, I feel like it can be very direct, and I feel like with my role, because it's welfare and a lot of people do come and talk to me, I can feel that impact. And it's nice when you go out and someone sees you walking around campus to be like, oh, thank you for answering my email, that really helped, thank you for the advice. Even that little thing really makes my day.
Yeah, I really don't think that's fluffy. Like, I genuinely think we need people like you. Like, I see you and I think, well, maybe I can do something like that as well.
Can.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you going to run?
Do you know what? Maybe. Yeah, so you mentioned that you've had some personal struggles in your life. So would you say there have been any major obstacles that you faced as a woman in your life?
I think the biggest personal struggle was me escaping that forced marriage.
Okay.
So that was like the biggest thing that shaped me.
Okay.
Yeah, and the sort of struggles that come with escaping it is something that's just constantly going forward, and will probably carry on because of the social implications of not getting married at this age.
Yeah.
Especially in our culture.
Yeah, so you are one of those people that kind of come out of that, like you've escaped that reality, but there are people who are in that position. I mean, how do you feel knowing that you've escaped something like that so narrowly, and now you're at university and you're doing so many awesome things? How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel hopeful, but at the same time very helpless that I can't get other people out of it too.
Yeah.
Because it's such a personal struggle for people, whether it's their mental health or family situations, for them to come out of. I can't drag them out of it, and it makes you feel so helpless.
Yeah.
But at the same time, seeing that I have done it and the difficult decisions I've had to make to get to that stage, I know I can give them a perspective, give them some form of advice from a personal point of view, not as VP welfare, but as just a normal person. And I think that gives me something to connect with to people, and that really gives me some form of like value to my role.
Just before this, I was reading your action plan. And you just mentioned the forced marriage now. And in your action plan, you have this campaign called We Move, and you want to raise awareness about forced marriages and sexual abuse and domestic violence. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So We Move, I had a really tough time naming this, but you know how on Twitter we're always like, you know what, I've had a rough day, but we move. Yeah. So I was trying to reclaim that phrase from something we don't do and we say we move to something we do, and reclaim that phrase and actually doing something, actually moving. So if I give you a little context about the actual campaign, it's split into two strands. So there's We Move for Us and then We Move for Me. We Move for Me is more of your personal development, so your mental health, your sexual health, your physical health, all of that combined into that section. And then We Move for Us has the more of the community things we can address as a community, and that's where hate crime, domestic abuse, sexual abuse, forced marriages come under. And those are things that I want to address for a year-long campaign, rather than have a month dedicated to it and forget about it.
We've had, not just at Queen Mary, but there have been, campaigns like this. What would you want to come out of this campaign? What does success look like?
So we have had a lot of campaigns, and our campaigns are quite short term. So they're a month or a week. And the reason I've made sure that this is a year-long campaign is so that the impact is ingrained, because change doesn't come about in a year. It doesn't come about in a month either. It takes time to get people talking about things, giving people a safe space to talk about issues, giving people exposure to information, and that's the aim of this campaign. It's an awareness campaign, and I've named it very broadly so that I can raise awareness for as many things as needed within the year, because I only have a year to make a change. I can't change culture, but I can start. And that's the aim, is to make sure people start talking, people start addressing these as a community issue, as your personal issue, and you start combining them under one brand.
What do you think Queen Mary could do to support the female students more? Not just from this campaign, but you were a student here as well.
I was a student.
As a student, like maybe if you were in your first year, what would you think Queen Mary could do for you more so?
I think one of the things we've mentioned earlier was the lack of female lecturers. I think it would be really good to see more female lecturers there, and being able to see people in higher positions within university have more of a connection with students. That would be quite great, because if I ask you, do you know who the members of the executive team are, would you be able to tell me?
No, I wouldn't.
So it would be quite good to know stuff like that, to see that there are female positions there who are making a big change, who are working very closely in the strategic side of university, to be able to see them as inspiration for other females.
And after you've mentioned all of these things, what would you say to other female students like yourself, not even just students but other women like yourself? What advice would you give them, just general life advice, not even just for studying or anything?
General life advice, damn.
It's a heavy question.
It's a heavy question. One thing, this wasn't something I would say to other people, but it was something I'd say to myself, and I'm still trying to learn, is how to not be scared of your own voice. Yeah. Because I still am. To this day, I'm very scared of voicing my opinion, because I'm having to unlearn those habits, and unlearning habits it's a difficult thing. Yeah. So I would really encourage people to identify those habits that have been ingrained in them from childhood, and unlearning them as a collective, because we can never do that on our own, and it's hard to do that on our own.
Okay. Now that we've come to an end, just one final thing. What are your plans for the future?
That's very broad.
Yeah, it's quite vague, broad. But where do you see yourself going?
You know what? If you asked me this a couple of years ago, I would have been like, I don't have a future. What are you on about? Right. But now I'm starting to see myself doing things. I want to have a career. I want to have a career probably in higher education. I want to be in those positions of power within higher education. And I want to make strategic changes to the way student life is. Yeah. And I hope I can get there. Yeah. I don't know. I might change my mind within the next week.
After hearing this, I think you will. You have some really amazing plans, and I think a lot of people will want to support them and, just kind of get it going.
So. Yeah. I think one of the things I really want to do this year is just get everyone to be involved and engaged. Engagement's always a big thing. We just want people to talk to us.
Yeah, I think I think this is so common, but a lot of students just don't find themselves participating or being active. There's so many things going on, and you just feel like get involved, do something, just help out. That's just so important. And I think
it's a personal thing as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
It doesn't always have to be because you're the nicest person in the world. You don't have to be the nicest person in the world.
Yeah.
But it's for your own good as well. When you participate, when you get involved, you make so many different memories. I've been part of so many societies, being in their committees, and it's a lot of memories you make in university, and it's a unique time, and you don't get that back. Yeah. Once you've hit that certain age gap, you don't get that back. Yeah, I mean, I know for a fact I won't get my university life back.
You have to make the most of your experiences. Yeah. But thank you so much for being here today.
No worries.
I've honestly learned so much from this, and
You have?
Yeah, I have. I feel inspired.
Aww.
Yeah.
I'm glad. Thank you for having me.
Right.